51st state? Why Canada won't join America, and what's really going on. Some political commentators have raised concerns about a hypothetical scenario in which Canada were to become the 51st state of the United States. The speculation is rooted in discussions over geography and ideology, with certain individuals suggesting that if such a unification were ever to occur, it would likely add a large and strongly left-leaning population to the American political landscape. The notion stems in part from the appearance of the US-Canada border in certain regions, where a straight, artificial boundary seems to have been drawn with little regard for natural divisions. Some advocates of the idea argue that the landmass itself is stunning and rich in resources, and that integrating it with the United States would bring about geographic and economic advantages. However, the political implications, particularly regarding liberal dominance, remain a point of contention. Prior to recent political involvement by prominent U.S. figures, some claimed that conservative voices in Canada were gaining significant momentum, at times polling well ahead of liberal candidates. These shifts suggested that Canada, like many democratic countries, could swing ideologically depending on the strength and popularity of its candidates. Despite these remarks, many in Canada, regardless of political affiliation, firmly opposed the idea of annexation. National identity remains a powerful element of Canadian political culture, and citizens across the spectrum often describe themselves in opposition to American norms, highlighting differences in healthcare, gun policy, and social programs as defining traits. Canadian leadership, including both Liberal and Conservative Party figures, have rejected the idea of becoming a U.S. state. Prime Minister Mark Carney and opposition leader Pierre Poilievre both reaffirmed Canada's sovereignty, pointing out that any such notion is not only unrealistic but also a distraction from more pressing issues, particularly escalating trade tensions. Many suspect that the rhetoric surrounding annexation serves a deeper political purpose. Analysts argue that it may be a calculated distraction from contentious economic policies, specifically rising tariffs on Canadian goods such as oil, gas, steel, and lumber. These tariffs could significantly increase prices for American consumers and strain the historically close economic relationship between the two nations. Prime Minister Mark Carney condemned the tariffs as unjust and damaging, not only to Canada's economy but to the United States as well. He emphasized the long-standing alliance between the two countries, reminding the public of Canada's military contributions in global conflicts, including Afghanistan. According to him, Canada's sacrifices and cooperative efforts should be met with respect, not economic punishment. Further complicating international dynamics are suggestions about acquiring other territories, such as Greenland and Panama. The former President of the United States claimed that Greenlanders were supportive of the idea, framing it as a matter of protecting the free world. However, widespread opposition from Greenlanders themselves, and public mockery, quickly dispelled that claim. Even conservative media outlets featured interviews with locals rejecting any interest in becoming part of the U.S. The idea was widely perceived as both disrespectful to the sovereignty of other nations and disconnected from geopolitical reality. Greenland remains a Danish territory, and Denmark's government made clear that the territory was not for sale or negotiation. Public opinion in both Canada and Greenland overwhelmingly opposed these annexation ideas. In Canada, even constituents in traditionally conservative districts began voicing their discomfort, questioning the diplomatic posture of calling a prime minister a governor, or making demands that seem more imperialistic than cooperative. These sentiments have led to broader reflections about the current trajectory of U.S. foreign policy. Critics have argued that the administration's approach has damaged America's relationships with its closest allies, while paradoxically embracing authoritarian regimes. The outcome, they claim, has been a weakening of national security, a shrinking of global influence, and domestic economic decline. Observers also point to alarming trends: market instability, rising costs, job losses in essential sectors, and diminished government capacity due to staffing cuts. Critics argue that if a hostile foreign power had designed a plan to destabilize the U.S. economy and divide its society, the resulting scenario would closely resemble current conditions. The broader concern is not simply about provocative rhetoric, but about the underlying policies and their consequences. The administration's strategy appears to rely heavily on creating nationalist fervor to distract from economic setbacks. By proposing grand but unrealistic goals like territorial acquisition, leaders attempt to redirect public attention from the tangible impact of trade wars and internal mismanagement. Ultimately, while some may entertain these ideas rhetorically, the political and cultural realities suggest that America's closest neighbors value their independence and are increasingly skeptical of U.S. leadership. The challenges facing the country today require grounded, cooperative policy, rather than diversionary tactics that risk long-term global relationships. TWN Trade War News is dedicated to bringing its audience timely, reliable, and insightful coverage on global trade issues. In a world where economic power shapes geopolitics, understanding the forces behind trade agreements, tariffs, sanctions, and negotiations is more important than ever. The platform bridges complex global developments with clear, engaging content for businesses, analysts, and everyday viewers alike. From emerging trade wars to collaborative pacts, TWN breaks down what's happening and why it matters. Viewers are encouraged to support this mission, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and share them with others. By staying informed and engaged, everyone can play a part in understanding and navigating the future of global trade.